So it's currently Sunday of Week 16 in the NFL, and as I'm recording this, it's the first quarter of the Sunday night game with the Cowboys and the Bucks. While a couple teams are clinching right now, so while some teams are clinching, most of the other teams in the league are already in draft season or just entered draft season, and draft season is what I want to focus on right now. The biggest game in terms of the NFL draft was the Raiders and Jaguars this weekend, and the Raiders ended up winning 19-14, which caused a lot of movement. The Raiders actually went from number 1 in the draft to number 6, which pushed the Giants up, followed by New England, Jacksonville, Tennessee, and then Cleveland. As a franchise, you're going to try to win as many games as you can, but sometimes those wins can hurt maybe your chances to get someone you really wanted in the draft. So I wanted to focus on what we're going to see in this draft for some people that are just getting started of looking into this, the strengths and weaknesses of the class, and also which teams are going to benefit from that. So these are my personal opinions on the strengths and weaknesses of the class. At running back, we've got a lot of talent at the very top of the draft. Ashton Jeanty, Caleb Johnson from Iowa, Scatabo. In the NFL, we've seen a resurgence of the running back position, with guys like Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. So it's possible that we see more running backs earlier in the draft this year in the first and the second round, just with the added emphasis on the running back position this year, and it's showing value, especially in that first contract where you can have them for 5 years if they're drafted in the first round. It's also an impressive offensive tackle class, which is typically one of the more targeted positions earlier in the draft. This year, like many other years, offensive tackle is a need for a lot of the teams at the very top. And then on the defensive side of the ball, the D-line positions, both interior and the edges, are pretty strong this year, especially compared to last year where we didn't see a defensive player for a long time in the first round. This year is probably going to be a lot different from that. Well, the one position that's talked about the most in the NFL draft is quarterback, and that is one of the weaknesses of this class, at least on paper. As the college football season has gone on, it seems that the perception of the quarterback position has gone less and less, with Quinn Ewers having some struggles, Carson Beck having a lot of struggles. So the class is really becoming Shedeur Sanders at the top, some people that really love Cam Ward, and then a pretty big gap when you drop from there. You will see teams fall in love, though, with their guy, who's maybe not the top of the class for everyone else, but for them, it seems like their guy. So who knows what the surprise there, but it's all in all a weak class compared to other years. It's a thin year for the interior O-line, which is going against the trend that we've seen in the past couple years with some stud guys coming in that middle spot. But this year it seems a little more thin there. And at wide receiver, for the first time in a while now, it seems like the wide receiver class is a little bit weaker. That's not to say that there aren't some talented receivers in this class. There definitely is. It's just not as deep as some of the other years that we've seen, especially if Travis Hunter leans corner when it comes to the NFL. That really devalues that class overall. So now that we've gone over what's in the class, I want to talk about who this benefits the most. So starting with the Patriots. The Patriots, they have their quarterback in place with Drake May, up and down, but they're obviously going to stick with him for another year. It's another year where they may want to go to offensive tackle, and that's definitely a position that they can upgrade in this year. And now that they moved up to number 2 in the draft with their loss and the Raiders' win, they could really have their choice of who they want, assuming that the Giants, if the order stays like this, they're probably going to lean quarterback. And next I had the Panthers. The Panthers' advantage here is that they have needs at nearly every position unless they believe in Bryce Young. And if you believe in Bryce Young, that puts you in a really good spot in terms of your leverage of maybe teams that are getting more desperate to move up, or you stay where you are and you're able to draft a quality player in a key position like edge rusher, which they really need help with. So for my first loser, I'm going to go with the Saints. The Saints are in desperate need to get a quality quarterback right now, but they really have no way to do it as of the moment. Their draft spot's going to be a little too high, and they have absolutely zero cap space, so they're stuck in a position where they may have to run back the same crew of quarterbacks and be expecting not much on offense. For the last loser, I chose the Cleveland Browns, simply for the fact that they need weapons, but it's not a very heavy weapon class, and they need a quarterback, but that's not a realistic thing right now for them. So their choices now are, do they bolster up that defense, try to replenish some of that offensive line, or maybe, if Nick Chubb is not going to be the same player with him being a free agent as well, maybe they go running back, which may be their opportunity to really add back and try to get back to those days where Nick Chubb was at his best.